The universe is a metaverse for education, a virtual environment where students and teachers can come together in a virtual world to participate in education. And it has a three-pillar approach, really. It's to drive engagement, enhance collaboration, and foster a sense of belonging. And we've built a series of tools around those three pillars to improve education in the online universe. So in the UK, it has many different functions, really. I don't think you'll ever replace having students in a room with you. A class of 30 kids use teaching from the front. It's not really designed for that sort of environment. It's there for four areas, I think, in UK education. Number one, the SEND provision in schools is difficult for schools now. The rise of the HCPs has gone up by another 3.7% since last year. Another is a rise in about 12% of students who require SEN support. Schools are struggling with providing the necessary education to these kids, and local authorities are also struggling under the pressure with funding and helping these students try and get over the barriers to their education. And so alternative provision is another area as well, and about half the kids in alternative provision at the moment are SEND students. So that kind of shows you that schools are struggling to meet their need because they are being put in alternative provision to try and help these students more. And the main two of SEN needs are communication needs and autism in the country. And a lot of these students are, since COVID, are refusing to come back into education or going into classrooms. And so where the universe can really help these is to bridge the gap between not attending school or not attending the usual classroom environment and sitting in a normal classroom. And we can use universe to bridge this gap between this by enabling students to get back into education by being in an online presence, access their education without being in the room at the same time. So it can be used to help them develop their social skills and their social needs to be able to get back into the classroom. But also, while they're not in the classroom, they can still be in an environment which is similar to a classroom, and a teacher be able to teach their classroom they have in front of them and in a virtual environment at the same time. Secondly, a lot of schools are struggling for specialist A-level teachers across trusts, especially physics, chemistry, and those difficult science subjects. That's the way schools can help develop and teach multiple pupils across multiple sites using a virtual environment. When you compare it to other online software, other online meeting environments, it's very difficult for people to talk all in one go. So we're all sat in meetings where you have that awkward, while waiting for your turn to speak, because only one person can speak at a time. Universe gets rid of that by using its spatial audio software, which mimics real life conversation. If someone's talking over there, you can't hear them unless you walk up to them. And that's what Universe does really well. And so it enables that collaboration and that engagement with students because they can have a conversation whilst other students are having a conversation, or in an online environment where in other software that's not available. Everyone has to speak in turn one at a time. A lot of students have SEMH needs, which is the third main SEND need. And a lot of that is self-awareness of themselves, how they look, how they present themselves. They're very nervous of that, and it creates social awkwardness. And so they don't turn up to school because they don't want to do that. Now, with avatars in the universe system, they don't have to do that. They can represent themselves however they want. And so it reduces the barriers yet again to education for a lot of these students who are stuck at home because they don't want to go to school because of the social awkwardness. They're not confident in how they look. They want an avatar to represent themselves. So it takes that barrier away for them to access education again. Another area is universities are now seeing higher costs, on-site costs. Electricity bills are going through the roof, same as schools too. And so what Universe does, it means they can have this collaborative environment, sharing information, this talking to each other in a proper, normal way in a virtual environment. So they don't need to be on site at all times. So you can reduce your resource costs of buildings and electricity bills. And again, that's the same for schools. As I mentioned before about A-level subjects, is that because this offers you a more collaborative and a better way to communicate in an online system, you can have multiple students taught from different areas of the country, different areas of sites, different schools, all by one teacher providing that. And then finally, we've seen a lot of interest from businesses who want to train their staff Obviously, getting staff together is very, very busy, very difficult to do because they are busy. And so giving them an environment where they can properly network and talk to each other rather than staring at a static screen or one person giving me a presentation for 45 minutes up to an hour, they can create a more realistic environment which mimics a conference or a workroom where people can talk to each other, they can share and they can collaborate and they can network better than what other software can do at the moment. So that's the main areas for Universe, really. I see it as it's a completely new thing for education in particular. There's nothing similar out there at the moment. For a lot of schools, it'll be an abstract idea, but once they see that what it can do for them, it'll be a great benefit for them in the future. Well, for me, I'd ask them about how many of their school attenders aren't attending, so non-attendance in schools. National figures about 92% attendance. I'll be asking them about how many of those students are non-attenders to school. I'll be asking them how many of their students are EHCP or SEND, that they're struggling to meet those needs for those students. I'll be asking them how do they encourage these students to get back into school, and how do they keep their alternative provision costs down. And it comes to a point where a lot of schools have to really select their students which ones can go and which ones can't, and purely because of costs. And the need for alternative provision is getting higher and higher in local authorities and local areas, and the provision is not there all the time. So my pitch would be, how many of your students are not attending? How many students are SEND, EHCP or SEND support? How many of those are we able to manage in your school? And how many kids are you sending to alternative provision, and what kind of costs is that providing? Because alternative provisions could operate completely differently with Universe. They could offer more places at a cheaper rate than they currently do at the moment, which is expensive because of the need that these students and children have, and because they need one-to-one support or small group support, and so they can only have a small amount there.